So you remember those creepy doll face molds that I found at the Goodwill by the pound? Well, I finally put them to good use in a craft project. Now, originally it was going to be the classic face on a wall, and the inspiration for that, you might be surprised, came from Chris Perkins.
All right, when you go over to the face and you actually stand in front of it, it comes alive.
Run race.
It opens its squinty eyes and looks at you and says, well, what do we have here? A drow?
Fred Sanford?
Yes. I have not seen the likes of you in a long time. What brings you up to these parts?
It's promiscuous.
This is a little high for you.
We were going to check out Spider.
We?
So much for Snell.
Who else is there? I can't see any of them.
Dark, just like, who said it first? I mean the royal.
Come on out, whoever you are.
That was from the Robot Chicken D&D game that he ran way back in the day, and I thought that that is pretty much the perfect explanation on how to use an interesting encounter to show the players that their actions matter in the game. A simple thing of the NPCs are going to pick up if you give them additional information that they didn't know before. So saying things and doing things, it matters. So he impressed that upon them very early in the game. The face on the wall, that was my primary idea. But then later on, after I had all the faces put together, I thought it'd be cool to have a monster too. Like maybe there's some sort of puzzle involving riddles or something if they get it wrong. And ladies and gentlemen, that's where the Goodwill push mold came in. It actually took me quite a while to figure out that this is actually a Sculpey press mold, which, yeah, I didn't realize that. It's really meant for, like, modeling clay. So it's not really made for resin, so I'm actually lucky I was able to get as many good copies as I did. The mold is still mainly unbroken. I think there was only a couple tears, which is impressive given how old it is. It was already broken when I found it, and obviously, you know, it wasn't made for resin. But again, I'm shocked that anyone could consider these faces whimsical. This is not whimsical, this is terrifying. On to the actual crafting. What actually saved me, I think, is I used a bunch of mold release spray and I let it completely dry. Now, obviously, there are much better ways of doing this, but I think this actually helped get some very good castings out of this material, which was never meant to work with resin. Again, I only found the pictures for the whimsical faces well after the fact, after I had created all my molds. So yes, if you find something that looks like this, it might be a press mold. Press molds obviously are meant to be used with clays and stuff like Sculpey, which you just sort of press into the mold and make your stuff. Plaster, everything like that. So yeah, if you do find a random mold like this and it looks very old, even though I got good results, I can't guarantee that you will find the same. I used the poke and prod method. If you gently vibrate these sorts of molds or poke and prod the resin in there before it is finished curing, then you'll get decent results. And I'm very happy with the stuff I did. I did get a bunch of them which were sort of beat up, but at the same time, I couldn't help but give myself a little applause for a job well done. But yeah, the ones that were actually beat up, I took a knife to and actually made them look a little bit more like chipped stone. So those actually were perfect for the wall faces. And I made 2 sets of those. There's the female chipped up face with the chipped up nose and everything like that. I think that actually looked really good. And so yeah, I had this ball, this toy that I put a little flight base nub into. And I just used some hot glue to get the faces on here. Now, originally I thought, okay, this is just going to be like a rock monster, so it's going to have these faces and a rocky body. But the more I thought about it, it'd be cool to do something more like organic, but still rocky. And thus the idea of brain coral came into my mind. It just seemed interesting. I think there must have been some sort of art that I've seen before, or maybe a video game boss. Anyways, if I were to do this again, I would remember that you have to really go small. So if I would have went much smaller with the sculpting, I think it would have looked great. Now, it ended up looking fine. Again, I have to remind myself that people are going to be looking at these things from 3 feet away. But the patterns were a little bit too big, and they looked terrible. Now, this is before I put the groove in the middle. If you look at the picture of the brain coral there, this is after I kind of inserted the groove in the middle of the texture. And it looks much better this way. And the little bit of gloss and the nice little simple paint job filled it. The paint job on the faces that look like ivory on this thing, that was achieved with brown, lighter brown, and then many different, like 7 different layers of very watered down paint. And it looks exceptionally good in person. Now, what you're looking at on the internet right now is probably going to look fine. But let me tell you, in person, those faces look really, really good. I just looked up Warhammer painting tutorial ivory, and I just took tips from several of them. But yeah, sometimes it does pay, even in a cheapo project like this, to just take the time and do the layering. By the time I got done with one, I would start to do the next one again, so it actually didn't take that long. And again, all I did was many different layers. And here, okay, here's the simple version. And you can see that the wall faces that I did simply, they just don't look as good. They look fine, but when you compare them to the ivory colored ones on the monster version, you know, it just doesn't look as good. But I do think the cracked and beat up ones look really neat. And since I have so many of these, they're going to look amazing for a puzzle. We have the comparison, and again, even on my computer monitor, you can't tell, but if you saw it in person, man, yeah. A little bit of a bubble there, obviously, not perfect, but I think it looks, imperfection is the key for a project like this. And here you can see the wall pieces, which the simply painted wall pieces actually look really neat too. And I put those are on thinner wall casts, so I kind of put those on clear bases so they stand up easily. And there's definitely a puzzle in the future with all these pieces together. Definitely going to be a puzzle happening for my player characters. Yeah. Like I said, now that I see it from a couple feet away, the brain coral texture doesn't look that bad. But you do have to go for the finer details. And, you know, I've been using this opportunity to practice my skills, and I've really fell out of practicing, and you just need to keep on doing that. So yeah, I'm going to keep on practicing my sculpting and using my found materials to make interesting things, and I'm going to put up the picture of my 3 latest big projects that I've done. And you can certainly see that I think the uniqueness of what I'm doing is certainly improving over time. And so yeah, hope you stick around. If you have any ideas of what I should do next, give me some suggestions, please. I always need them. It's always helpful, and yeah, let me know in the comments below.